Let's go over the voting things one more time with you, just so we have a little recap, because I didn't do the whole thing. So there are 7 state propositions. I just want to briefly go over this, and if whatever you have questions on, we can go over with later. Proposition 1, state proposition. State proposition 1 allows for veterans and their surviving spouse to get a house from the Wounded Warrior Project or Habitat for Humanity or one of those things, and to basically make the house affordable, freeze their taxes basically at nothing. You know, if they get it for free, they're taxed basically on that value, and their taxes do not go up. There's no point in giving someone a $250,000 house with no income if then they get a $20,000 tax bill year 3. They're forced to sell the house and move on. So it's designed to help veterans and their surviving spouse and their property tax bill. I don't think it's too controversial. I think people are probably in favor of that. There are not 12 houses a year that are impacted in the state of Texas by this. Okay? Proposition 2 is a little confusing, and it's probably the largest real estate related item that you might get a question on. It makes home equity loans easier. And you either want home equity loans to be easier or you don't. Texas is one of the last states that even allowed home equity loans. It's very restrictive. The biggest change to all of us is now when you have a home equity loan, you always have a home equity loan. You can't refinance out of your home equity loan, and home equity loans are traditionally a higher interest rate than a conventional mortgage. This would allow you, once you're a home equity, you would not always be forced to be a home equity. Doing Balin, I was $400,000 over the limit. My house value was significantly higher than what I owed or whatever, but I did go get a home equity loan at the final closing. I pulled out another $250,000, but that kept that always at a home equity loan. And in the middle of the recession, I was paying 6% interest on that damn thing when everyone else was paying 4% or whatever. But you can't refinance out of that home equity loan ever to somebody and buy it back a year or 2 later, but it doesn't make it easy. That's the biggest fix. It would allow you to not always remain a home equity loan. The rest of the stuff is relatively insignificant. There's still a limit of 80%. It allows for agriculture property and farms and ranches to do home equity loans that were not allowed. The fees are manipulated. They're about the same. They're trying to scam you and set down, but they're not counting some of the fees that are counted in that number. So wouldn't pay any attention to that. You either want home equity loans to be easier or you don't. 20 other states in the nation have this. Every major state has it. I think it'll probably pass just fine. It's mildly controversial. You might get some questions about it if the real estate industry is for it or against it. Yes?
No, I got, and I was trying to look it up. I got an email from somebody in insurance, and Goosehead Insurance, who is saying that they're at, and I think it was the home equity thing, there's a problem with it, with the way it capped, or something.
Okay. The fees used to be capped at 3%, right, and they're lowering the cap to 2%, which sounds like we're saving the consumer a lot of money. But the cap included all the fees, and now it doesn't include any third-party fees. So it does include a survey, an appraiser, an inspection. All these other things are not included in the cap. So the fees are virtually about the same.
Okay, so these people are, these
insurance the insurance is a third party. That's a fee that used to be a cap in the 3%, and the 2% cap, no third party fees are included. So, I mean,
so they must misunderstand.
They probably misunderstand. I think it will increase the number of people who participate in home equity, and it will increase the number of people who refinance and get out of home equity.
Do you think that's because of the demographics, because of everybody getting older?
I have a, you know,
I know you. I'm just saying. Okay, so I'm in my house and I'm older, and then I need, maybe when I
want to remodel my house, and I've been in it 10 years. I want a home equity loan at 80% value, and I want it to be easy, but I want to pay a higher interest rate because of that than everyone else. Okay. So if I pull out my home equity loan, and I pull out $50,000 and I remodel my kitchen and my bath, then I want to refinance out of my home equity loan. Now my house is worth $50,000 more. I want to be able to refinance into a conventional loan, and I don't want to pay a higher interest rate, and that's what it allows you to do. You can use your home equity loan to do something, build a pool, a garage apartment, and then you can refinance that later and not be a home equity loan when you have 80% loan to value ratio. makes sense to me.
Oh,
I think
boy,
it's a
am
good
I
thing.
on the wrong page. Okay, got it.
Okay. Okie dokie, moving on, number 3 is also the next most confusing thing. It's a legal deal, it's been done before. It is when you're in the middle of a court trial and the judge rules something unconstitutional, it would require a 45-day period before something would happen. They've done this before, it's been stricken down as unconstitutional. Most of my friends think it's unconstitutional. I don't think it's gonna pass anyway, and I think even if it does pass, the court's probably gonna rule it out anyway. So I would say focus on Proposition 4. It's long, way too confusing if you're not a lawyer fighting the Supreme Court of Texas anyway. Number 4 is state appointees. It's really, this impacts also less than 10 people in the world. If the governor makes an appointment and it's approved by the Senate, what happens right now is that person stays in office until there's a replacement. So if I'm Kay Schwartz's husband and I'm a regent at Texas A&M University, and his term is 8 years, then that's the law that it's limited. But the governor wants him to stay on. If the governor doesn't appoint someone else, he's still staying on there. He's still going to the monthly meetings in year 9 and year 10. It's the way they can extend the term of their friends where there is a term limit. This would, at your 8 years, you're out of there, and there's a vacancy, and it would require the governor and the Senate to then approve more nominations. And I think it's a good thing. It keeps the governor's friends from serving longer than the term that they were intended to serve. Okay, so if you don't reappoint someone, now you just stay on. Under this new law, they would be out of there, and there would be a vacancy, and it would require the governor to act quicker there. It's controversial, but it is just a political deal. Number 5 allows professional sports teams to have a raffle. The Dynamo, the Dash, all those sort of people could have a raffle. I don't know if we care one way or the other. Number 6 would, right now, if you and I are married and I'm a veteran and I die and I had survived and I had a tax exemption because of my service to my country, it would be removed after I'm dead, and the surviving spouse would not maintain that tax benefit. This would allow the surviving spouse to keep that exemption until they remarry you. Yeah. Getting married soon.
Yeah.
It allows the surviving spouse to maintain
Yeah,
the veterans exemptions that are currently subject to removal if you had some aggressive tax assessment collection. I think most people want the surviving spouse to be able to stay in their household. Yeah. And then number 7 would allow banks and savings and loans to offer you also some sort of raffle. Remember, all those of us that are old, you always used to get a bamboo steamer or whatever when you opened your savings account.
Yes.
This would allow them to go back and do the same thing, offer you some incentive. I remember it very well to get it done. It's designed to help people. Right now, low to moderate income people do not save money. And this is an attempt to try anything to get them to save money. The intention is that if you save $10 a month for 10 months, the bank could then give you $10 extra. It's your incentive. Now they could give you, a free pot in a pan too. I mean, who knows what they're going to offer, but they can offer you an incentive less than $50 for saving money. It's probably a good thing. So those are the 7 state propositions. We had not really discussed them at all. If you have any particular questions, Mario and I can answer them for you.
Do you have handouts for those?
We do. Mario will prepare something that's simple for people to understand.
Yeah.
The home equity is the hardest because there's a lot of things going on there. Most of them are just so insignificant. I mean, it's you either want home equity loans to be easy or you don't. If you don't want to be easy, then you're not for it.
Who would you want home equity loans to be?
Well, I mean, there are a lot of people that think you take advantage of people, that it encourages them to pull out the money from their home equity and pay off their credit cards and increase their debt.
Exactly.
Conventional wisdom had it that Texas fared better during the real estate crash because we couldn't have people. And that was the conventional wisdom. Whether it was true or not, you read that in every national publication. That Texas was protected, Houston did better because their people couldn't suck all the equity out of their house.
And the difference is we didn't have the same appreciation as San Francisco and New York either. So someone didn't buy a house for $1 million and be worth $2 million the next year. where it did in San Francisco. Then you pull out home equity, and then there's a crash, and now you owe $1.75 million in your house. It's really worth 1.5, and people just gave back the houses, and we lost $8 trillion because of that. I think Texas was more conservative. There is still this limit of 80% loan to value ratio, so it's not like they're going to pull out 100% of the money for the home equity. But there are a fair amount of people that think it encourages people to pull out money from their house and use the money maybe inappropriately. Pay off student loan, pay off credit card, and encourages you then to go charge back up your credit cards once you pay them off again, and it keeps people perpetually in debt. That's the anti-policy. Pension bonds, I'm not going to go over too much. I mean, I hope you all know it's $1.4 billion and it's a savings of $2.5 billion. If you can't get that by now, I mean, I'm happy to answer any other questions, but I think we have thoroughly covered. The pension bonds are the most important vote that we've had in 17 years. It's more important than who the president is at this moment. The city will be bankrupt if this fails. And the city bankrupt, you think it's bad after Harvey, it is bad when you can't collect the trash and can't pay the water bill and you have laying off police and environment. It will be bad for the city. We do not have enough cushion. And you must think of it this way. For 17 years, we owed $100 on our credit card and we only paid $28. And the $72 bill is due over here. And what we're able to do is refinance again and say, we'll save $2.5 billion worth of savings from the employees if we'll repay back $1 billion that we've already shorted over the 17 years. So we're just trading money over here on this pension bond deal, but it saves the additional $2.5 billion. So I think we got that one.
Is that Proposition 1?
That's A.
That's
City is
A through E. A through F.
All right, let's go over the other municipal improvement bonds. For $495 million. They're investments into the city's infrastructure. It's much like, same thing, we're re-roofing our house over here. This is just normal maintenance into the city. We also have a line of credit, a bonded capacity. We pay down the bonds. We can borrow back against these bonds and keep the tax rate exactly where it is. So it has no net tax increase, but I'm not, I'm a fiscally conservative Democrat. We are still borrowing for $495 million. So I'm not saying that we don't owe the money later. We're just not going to have a tax increase. Our taxes would stay the same. We last had a bond election in 2012. It was $410 million. Most of that went for parks and green space. I think we would all believe that the parks and green space were better than they were, 7 or 8 years ago, right? This is a similar sort of deal. Proposition B is $159 million, mostly it's for public safety. $110 million of that is just for vehicles. They're for fire ambulances, fire trucks, and police cars that we are behind on acquiring. So that would pay out these vehicles over 5 years. We would acquire more vehicles. We do some fire stations. We do some police stations. They repave the police department's parking lots, We're going to redo Fire Station 95 and some of those things. But the bulk of the money is going to pay for vehicles, $159 million. You can vote for A or B or C or D. You don't have to vote for all of them. They're broken out. So if you don't want more vehicles, then you don't. I did verify we're not financing police cars over 30 years. We're going to finance those cars over 5 years. We're going to finance ambulances and fire trucks over 7 years. So they have a payout schedule of 5 to 7 years. Proposition C is $104 million for parks. It will impact 26 direct parks. We have 350. I'm not going to touch all of them, but they are touching a fair number of other small parks throughout the city. No signature parks. No money really goes to signature parks other than Buffalo Bayou, which is $1.1 million for some retainage walls. This is mostly going for playground equipment, resurfacing. All of the old light poles that are on wooden poles with the old lights would be replaced with metal poles and new halogen lights that are put on a remote. So there's a guy over there flipping a switch over there to turn the baseball lights on during the summer. So that's $104 million. $2.2 million of that does go to the bike plan to help implement the bike plan that was recently adopted. So if you like bikes,
paint
go for it. If you don't go for it. Proposition D is $109 million. that's going into city and public health buildings, basically City Hall, the City Hall Annex. $51 million is going into a community center for A-Leaf. A lot of money is going into Sunnyside. A lot of money is going into multi-service centers. That's where we do the health projects. Many of you vote at those multi-service centers. Other community centers spread throughout the city there. Pretty equitable distribution. Some money goes to BARC. Some money goes to water treatment plants. There are lead-based paints in City Hall. You cannot drink from the water fountains today. They fixed that situation so you could finally drink at the water fountain if you'd like. Proposition E is for libraries, $123 million, and it touches 24 of the 42 libraries that we own and operate. The libraries of today are not really about checking out a book like they used to be. This is where low to moderate income people have access to the internet. This is where they take the GED. This is where they go for job searches. This is where they go for information and research. I mean, it is the information hub for a class of people that do not have access otherwise. So, $123 million for libraries, $495 million total. Yep.
That part of that money for the libraries better replace or repair libraries that were damaged in the flood.
No, let's be clear on this. Every bit of this $495 million was decided earlier in the year. All of the language and the money was allocated and portioned out in the 1st of August before the hurricane. There is nothing tied to the flood in these bonds at all. There might be future issues tied to the bonds. Tied to the hurricane. The situation of the hurricane, basically the city's property, Jones Hall, the Wortham Theater, City Hall, the parking garages, the debris, is about $175 million worth of damage to the city of Houston. The insurance policy of $100 million, leaves you shy of $75 million. You're going to have to make it up somehow. Some of that comes from the federal government. It's undecided yet over there. So, but yeah, none of this money is related to the hurricane damage at all.
There's some unallocated library.
There's $87 million that's unallocated for maybe future others. We do get, the biggest library expenditure is Moody Library in the near north side off Irvington. They're gonna tear that down and rebuild it and double the size of that library. Go from 12,000 square feet to almost 20. Okay, questions about propositions A, B, C, D, E, none of those. Proposition F, if you happen to live in what is the Heights dry area, is the last repeal of the liquor dry ordinance in the Heights. If you want lots more restaurants right next to residential neighborhoods, then you're all in favor of that. I don't see why anyone in the dry area would want more restaurants personally. I don't live in the dry area, so I don't get a vote. You all know that I'm not in favor of it. What passed before is the off-premise portion of the repeal of the dry, so it allowed for liquor stores and gas stations and grocery stores like H-E-B. This would remove any of the other burden for restaurants, the private clubs or whatever. Let's just be clear. If I did an analysis of the restaurants in the dry area or the restaurants in the wet area, the restaurants in the dry area who have less competition have fared significantly better than the restaurants in the wet area. Follow Studewood. How many times have the Glass Wall's closed, Black and White, Stella's closed, Helen's been 2 or 3 things, Pupu's has been 2 or 3 things, on Shepherd, Hunky Dory, and all those little things are there.
Yeah.
They all haven't made it. Why? Because they have a hell of a lot of competition.
Right.
The things in the shades of the world, the Onion Creeks of the world, the cultivars of the world, the downhouses of the world have fared better than the others, purely because they don't have the competition of other bigger, larger, deeper pockets, okay? Those guys are all in favor of this change, and they are my friends, and I don't understand why they are thinking this way. They're trying to save a penny, and it's gonna cost them 99 cents, and I don't understand it. But it would free it up, and then all of a sudden, all of that area, which is a protection for the homeowner, it's kept out a fair number of restaurants into the residential section of the neighborhoods. That would go away, and it would be just exactly like Montrose and everyone else. And if you think it's archaic and you don't like that rule anymore, then go down. It probably will pass because people, I don't think, understand it.
They don't understand.
They don't understand it. But it is no different than River Oaks or Tanglewood or Cinco Ranch that have a restriction against the sale of alcohol on those properties, right? Those are deed restricted against it. We don't have those deed restrictions. The only protection we had was that ordinance that was in place when we were the city of Houston Heights. Proposition F, probably gonna pass. Who really knows? We'll know November 8th, I suppose. I'm not gonna get into school board. There's some school board races. There's some HCC races or whatever, but those are just individuals, not propositions. Everyone got on the ballot. Please go vote. Don't vote for anything else. Go vote for Proposition A. Please go vote for Proposition A. I'm telling you, I'm not showing up to work on the 8th if it doesn't, because I'm not sure what we're going to be doing over here. I'm telling you, the property value is going to go to hell. And these neighborhoods that are on the fringe are going to go to hell because there will be no policemen and there will be no firemen for these sort of things. It'll be the front page of the New York Times. We will be forced to lay off 10%. The budget that was passed assumed this was going to be in play. So when it retroactively goes away, we have to pay back starting last June all of these fees, and there is no money in the bank. There was no money before the hurricane. So without this savings of about $125 million for this fiscal year, we're in deep shit and can't fix it until the legislature meets again. So there's no fix for 2 years. There's no way to solve the problem because the legislature would have to call a special session for the pension, and they're not going to do that. They won't even call it for the rainy day fund for the hurricane. So, yes.
Do you have any idea of where people, whether, I mean, I've not seen the first commercial. Now, maybe.
The commercials are out. The commercials are out. I've seen the commercials, but
And
I
I've
mean,
had a flyer.
Uplift Houston has knocked on 100,000 doors, okay, of likely voters for it. When they go to the likely voters, it polls at about 69%, okay, of the likely voters. So we're targeting the likely voters. The likely voter for this deal is someone who voted for Sylvester Turner, not for someone who didn't vote for Sylvester Turner. So that's where they're going. There's a field game out there to knock on those doors. There was a $3 million campaign when Harvey struck. We stopped the campaign. We did not raise money for a month. We only raised $2 million versus $3 million. We had to cut the majority of the TV ads. We'd like to write a check. We'll take your money and we'll run some more TV ads. But it costs about $50,000 an ad. So there's not that many commercials for very targeted work. There's not organized opposition against the pension Proposition A. There is some people who are not in favor of all the municipal utility bonds, municipal improvement bonds. But as we know, only 8% of the population is going to vote, of the registered voters.
And we know a disproportionate number of them too.
We know a fair number of
We do, of the
we
people who are gonna vote,
That's
right
right.
here in this room.
That's
We do.
The mayor is not overly popular in West Houston and in North Houston and Kingwood. He wasn't popular before flood. He's sure as hell not popular after a flood. Those people tend to be more conservative. They don't want to increase the debt. They are anti-government in many ways, and they could vote against it. If you wanted the mayor to fail, if you wanted to win a Republican against the mayor, that's what you would do. You would create chaos. And so there is a fair amount of people, in my opinion, that have an incentive for them to fail. Even though I would throw the city in chaos, if you wanted to be the savior, you would then throw it into chaos and then you would save the city, right? If you were an opponent of the current administration.
Yeah, but it's gonna be hard to pull it out of that.
It's gonna be very hard. Very, very
What
hard.
is it, what's the stand, I don't take the Chronicles, so what's the
The
stand?
Chronicle's in favor of everything. They're in favor of all
Okay.
the deals. They were against state Proposition 2 and 4, which were the home equity and the 45-day waiting period. There again, I don't have a strong opinion one way or the other.
We need more police. There is about, I don't know, 25 or 30% of the police that can retire right now. And if they do that, we're going to lose more services than we
Yeah,
already.
we were already short-staffed. We're
Yeah.
just, we're just it's a lean city because of how large it is. So if you're a policeman in New York City, you're patrolling 4 blocks. If you're a policeman in Houston, you're patrolling 40 miles. Okay? Takes more vehicles, takes more gas. You go through the tires quicker, you go through everything quicker. I mean, it's a big city to try and do all that. You need more substations. In New York, you don't have to have that many substations. Here, you're 676 square miles. It's larger than Boston, Philadelphia, Manhattan combined, the city is. So it's just a big city, and it's the nature. It's kept property values down, and it also creates another set of problems out there.
Did I see the mayor on, I think I saw him.
The mayor,
Yeah.
the commercials are the mayor.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, commercials are the mayor because
But you sell
the
it so well, when
strongest-
you talk to the mayor,
I know
that
you
do.
should be.
You really do.
the
because
mayor
you-
polls today at 80% approval rating. Yeah, so that's why when they poll, do you have John Arnold do the commercials? Do you have Bob McNair do the commercials? Do you have Jim Crane do the
Not
commercials?
now.
Right. You risk pissing someone else off, right? So there was a large deal that said it should have been a businessman. It should have been John Arnold, who's a
Right.
billionaire who
Right.
was but he didn't, no one knows who that is. Versus the mayor speaking to someone, at least he had name identification.
Could they, I mean, it's too late now to change it, but
No, it's
aren't
not.
they publicizing, like for A, that this is a debt restructure, this is not new debt?
The law was set by the legislature, the wording is set by the legislature.
Oh,
The wording is set by the legislature. There's a
because if
state.
people knew it was restructuring, they would be more in favor if we were
We're just,
Keywood people Monday night, and they are like, no more debt.
I
This
understand,
is
we
not new
already,
debt, this is not new debt.
so all that happened, I mean, let's just, we have $250 million to the municipal fund and $750 million to the police fund.
I've
And we've
already
got,
voted.
so, I mean, Allison, here's what it is. We're in lean economic times, and I'm gonna guarantee you 7% return on your retirement. And instead of a raise, we're gonna increase your retirement, okay? So I want you to stay on as a policeman or a city worker. I'm not gonna give you a raise in 2001 or 2 or 3 or 2008, 9 or 10. But I'm gonna guarantee you a better retirement. You're gonna stay on at the city of Houston because you're gonna get a better retirement. We're gonna assume that we have 7% return. But we didn't have 7% return, we had 1% return over there. So we promised you percent, and we didn't fund it, we didn't pay for it. We didn't put in the money in year 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003, or in 2008, 9, 10, or 11. And so we owe the money, so we still owe you the same amount of money we promised you. Now, Allison, I'll tell you what, you had this retirement fund and it was $500,000. I'm gonna reduce it now, and I need for you to understand it's only gonna be worth $250,000. And now I'm gonna start paying the full percent of what we owe you from this point forward. And that was the agreement. So the $1 billion was money we really owed, and we just didn't pay it. We didn't pay it in those other years. But we still owed the money. We're just paying back what we didn't fund the previous 17 years.
Jesus.
Okay, moving on. I want to talk about sales a little bit, and I don't want to harp on this too long. But I mean, all of the headlines were very positive for the recovery and the resiliency of the housing market, and we did recover just fine compared to 2016. So 2017 September, the headlines were good, and everything basically was up. The number of sales were up, the dollar volume was up, the average price was up again, the median price was up again, the same back channel that we've been on, despite the fact that we've had a hurricane and we were on pause for 10 to 14 days over here. So it impacted the last of August, the first week or so of September. But overall, the market handled the hurricane just fine, and I think that you'll see that it handled the hurricane just fine in October also, which we'll have those numbers briefly, and I'll go over them again in the 1st of November. So I'll be curious to see how it goes. I think it's gonna be about the same. So because it's been about the same and about like we expected, I mean, the only real thing is, did it do what it had been doing? And the answer is yes, it was doing what it was doing just fine, and there was no adverse impact other than a few days to the housing market and what happened in sales. There is still the stigma of the deal. There's still 10% of the properties that are impacted. There's still 10% of the people that are impacted. And I don't want to be insensitive at all to any of those neighborhoods and what's going on. I'm just talking about the larger neighborhood, the whole city recovered just fine. It was not catastrophic by any means to the overall housing market. Let's keep going. So we're going good. So I just want to look at a couple of things. So if you go back and you look at area 9, I'm not even, all this stuff was fine. It's statistically been about what it's been and about how it's going. So just go look at area 9, 16, and 17 again. Here's where I think we ought to be thinking for a moment. Overall, things were about fine. I mean, I can't say that there were plus or minus, but here's where the shortage is in the world. Area 9, 16, and 17 were about the same as about what you would have expected. I think they were all, in my world, they were off a little bit. Okay? Other areas were better, but area 9, 16, 17.
Almost there.
You almost there?
Keep talking.
I thought they were fine. So the impact is that we're doing okay. Not great, not bad, I think we're doing okay. I think well-priced houses and totally remodeled houses, all those things are doing fine. I think the same thing. The shed houses, there's no way to get them to sell anyway. Do something to them. That's not where the problem is in the marketplace. How you doing there?
I'm doing pretty good. Here you go.
Okay, area 9, this is all sales. So all sales were down a hair, but statistically about the same, okay? It's about the same. The number of sales is about the same. I don't know where
Go
you're
down a little bit.
Yeah, there it
There
is.
you go.
You know, prices are about the same, median price about the same. You know, the number of houses for sale went down a little bit. Statistically, all these numbers are about the same. The pending sales went up a little. You know, this is the only real significant number that was more than 2 or 3%. Days on market went down, inventory went down a little bit. Statistically, in my world, it was about the same. Okay, no real significant thing one way or the other. Same with area 16. If we go to area 16 and you look at it, it's about the same. Number of sales. This is the total sales. Yeah, about the same, down a little bit. Here's River Oaks, maybe down a little bit, but about the same. In my world, about the same. I would say there's nothing significant there. But go shrink us and go down to existing and then new home. Let's go, the most important thing is go to the new construction. Go to page 74. This is the story that we have to all follow. If you're an investor or if you're in the market.
Oopsie.
Existing home sales are up fairly significant, okay? So the total we said was about the same, right? Total is about the same, okay? Existing homes are up significantly. New construction, let's look at new construction area 9. 50% off. The number of new houses that sold in area 9 compared to 1 year ago are off by 50%, okay? Instead of selling 81 new homes, we sold 44 new homes.
Why?
We didn't start any new homes in the last year. You cannot, if there are 100 for sale, I can sell 81. If there's only 50 for sale, I can only sell 44. 44 new homes are all that sold in area 9 last month. It's because we have a shortage of new homes now. And it's not going to get any better next month, November, December, January, February, March, April. So if I'm Brandon and I'm building a house and I'm going to have one of the only new houses for sale in Woodland Heights next May, do I have to negotiate at all?
No.
Hell no. Is the price going to go up or down? It's going to go up. Okay? Follow me in a minute. Look at area 16.
Yeah.
16
Bring it up.
off 50% again.
Yeah.
50% off in area 16. Look at River Oaks. Instead
No,
of
that's
14 new construction,
River Oaks is 16. Area 17.
look at Westview.
Two.
Only 3 new homes sold. And it's not because that someone didn't want them. The damn house price went up by 50%. Went up by 50% of what sold. There hasn't been enough new construction started
Page 74.
in late 2016 and early 2017 to fulfill what people want, which is the new construction. Okay?
But the houses were more expensive when 14 houses lived there.
That's right. I mean, the average price, this is the average price of what's selling, is more expensive than the year before.
Good God.
So, I mean, some of them are significant. I mean, what's selling, so it's not like they're trying to meet the market down that's in a depressed market. The market is fine, there's not enough houses.
What's that?
This figure is the median price.
Wow.
Yeah.
A million more.
It jumped.
Yeah. But I've got a guy trying to buy a house for $2 million in this area. 2 to 2.4, you'd be surprised how hard it is. He just would like a yard and a pool. And you can get one or the other. The yard is about the size of half office. So if you put in a pool, there is no grass left. You would think for $2 million or 2.2 or 2.3 or 2.4. But we show every house in Akano, every house in River Oaks, every house on an oversized lot in Westview. He just lives and works in the Galleria. So just gotta be somewhere where we can get to the Galleria. And you can't find it. And he wants to buy, wanted to buy last month, wanted to buy the month before. You'd be surprised how hard it is. We're not selling a lot of those houses, but we'll see. I mean, I'll be curious. This is that Tanglewood house for 2.85. I think I'm going to get an offer tomorrow. I'll just see how well that works. I've got a couple of these $3 million houses.
When was the Tanglewood house listed?
We put it up probably Friday. We had an open house. We'll have the re-show back with the people tomorrow. The 8th hadn't been there yet. This is what I think we ought to watch is how, and so we're watching permitting numbers over here. See, you got to extrapolate a lot of those permitting numbers. The headline has been high, permitting is steady. Those are all remodeling permits. Those aren't new construction permits. So that's not a fair number to talk about. You artificially inflated the permitting number. You got to look at the number of new starts. I believe the economy is going to be just fine. I just did a talk and we had a little seminar thing with Centerpoint Energy, who is looking at, will the economy grow after Harvey or will it restrict? Will jobs come to Houston, Texas, or will be people, and we, my little news report when I was on TV, follow the jobs report. It is the single most important thing that's going to impact our lives in the next 9 months or so. It's going to be, will companies relocate to Houston, Texas after Harvey, or are they going to go to Phoenix where there's not going to be a hurricane? That's the question. Are they going to go to Nashville? Are they going to come to Houston? Are they going to go to Dallas? Are they going to come to Houston? Are they going to go to, one of these other Sunbelt, Atlanta or Houston? Where are they likely to have a hurricane? We've got to spread the message that 90% of the city was not impacted by the hurricane, and that we're doing something to impact the areas that have historically flooded. And if we don't solve that problem, we're not going to get energy companies moving to the energy corridor if they think their employees are going to flood or their office buildings are going to flood. It's the single most important marketing message I think Houston first and the city needs to go and talk about. We're talking about the culinary capital of the South, and start talking about how you're impacting, housing, addressing climate change and the flooding issues that we historically had. And I think we've got to go and do that. I'll be curious to see what happens in October. I think it's about the same. I think the market's balanced. I don't think it's booming. I don't think it's going down. I think it was delayed a little because of the hurricane. I think there's a number of people on the fence. I think you're going to have a little frenzy over here in November and the 1st of December because you shortened the schedule for everything.
Are you finding fewer new listings for what you're buying?
There are fewer listings. There are fewer listings, so people they don't have anywhere to go.
Yeah.
I mean, I can list Gerald Carter's house if he had someplace to go, but I can't list his house, because he doesn't have someplace to go. So it's the catch-22. Some of that's the fact that we didn't start the new construction. The guy in the average $700,000 house probably wants to go to the new $1.1 million house, and we haven't started the $1.1 million house.
I heard just yesterday or the day before about these housing starts are off and people are remodeling instead of selling.
Mm-hmm.
So that they looked at permitting and all of the permits were for remodels.
Yeah.
For new houses.
I don't know. I think there's some investors that need to go buy some land and build some houses. And I think they'll be just fine, provided they're not right next to the bayou, traditional flooding, But I think there's an opportunity even for some investors. Amanda has that deal and, they struggled with the one to sell or whatever. And I mean, Do I sell the land or do I build the house? Build the house, damn it. You have an easier time to sell the new house now than you did the previous year. You're going to have an easier time selling it. You can sell it for more money. I believe that you'll have less competition in the new housing market than you used to. Even over here, I mean, you don't have the Smith family homes building anymore. You don't have a fair number of those people that have gone to other areas. He's playing in area 17 over here. This is where he's playing because why not? There's less competition, right? If you have the new house, you're better off selling over here.
So in the Heights, was it like a bunch of people remodeled their houses and those sold and then the new construction came, or was it the other way around? There was a bunch of new construction.
It was the buying frenzy, there was this pause in 11 and 12, and it took a long time to sell a house. And then I'm telling you, January 1, it's just like we turned on the light in a dark room, and all of a sudden, people are paying $50,000 more than the asking price, which then feeds the frenzy of paying for the dirt. If you paid $400, all of a sudden you're paying $500 for it, and you have this unrealistic expectation in 13 and 14 that oil was always going to be you're going to go from 100 to 200, okay? And it was not a real sense of reality over there. And so I think what happened is we built too much then on bad locations, overpriced houses in bad locations. You can't go from, same thing, the typical house was $1 million, and for a decade, they've gone up by 50 or 75,000 a year. And all of a sudden, we're going from $1.1 million to $1.6 million. We never had any houses at $1.6 million, and all of a sudden we had 12. I'm just going, the market could not absorb that many houses. It was everything going up too rapidly.
What about like 10 years ago when Allegro started building houses that prompt more people down the street to remodel and then get more for their house, or?
It prompted people to want a new house when they saw newer houses because they were newer, nicer amenities. The Viking range and the wine cellar and the elevator and the 3-car garage and the 11-foot ceilings and the big master closet and the big master bath. And they didn't have those things before in the remodeled houses. And in the remodeled houses, you still don't have the space to do that.
Right.
It's hard to allocate the space in a traditional remodel than it would be. It's just easier to go buy the house than it is to remodel. Where are people going to go when they remodel? They have to move out of their house or live, their diamond ring gets stolen from the plumber that's in there. And so it's just easier to go buy the new house and move in and sell the other one than it is to go through the remodel. If you have an oversized lot or something different, I just think it's easier to buy new construction.
Makes sense.
Okay, any questions about the state of the market? Okie dokie. We are really into new office mode over here. Okay, I want you to know we're really into new office mode. So I need for you, Frank and Maria and I are definitely into new office mode. If you see things at an office building, at a bank, at an architect's office, at anywhere you go, that you think we ought to go look at that's neat, please tell us. We're going to tour these WeWork spaces here, the one in the Galleria this afternoon. But we're touring banks and law offices and all sorts of things who are experimenting, much like all industry. How open can it be and how much privacy do you have to offer? And how do we work in these shared work environments sort of things or whatever? So we got up to our second floor Friday, Frank and I did. I think it's going to be beautiful. The building is going to be very, very, very beautiful. And it's going to be very functional. there's a lot of space over here and how it's going to work. But it's really the mix of the technology and then, like I say, how do you have a space that you feel comfortable working in, and how can you get something done working next to somebody else? And how are we doing that when our clients come in? Remember, we have the downstairs area and an upstairs area, so I think it will be easier to have a certain amount of privacy when a client comes to visit at the office. You're not going to have to sit right here with them necessarily, although you could do that. We're just experiencing our way out there. I believe that they are fundamentally on schedule, although they're always going to be behind, of handing over to us the inside of the building sometime in January. We will spend 2 months building out our portion. Remember, it's just a big vacant spot over there. You brick some walls and put in some wooden floors. It's not that complicated for us. And then we will stay here through April and open there the 1st of April. None of this stuff is going there. I'm telling you, This table is the only thing going over there. So that you'll be able to work here, or you'll be able to work there, and we'll just transition and close this down at the end of April. So it's not like we're going to take a weekend and move from here to there. We're just not gonna do that in Agnes this time. We're gonna just get open over there. We will then want to use that space. I mean, the goal will be to show people. The patio is simply amazing. I mean, this is just, so I envision us working out there, meeting out there, drinking out there, playing out there. I mean, there's a lot of space going on out there. 2,000 square feet of patio is a very amazing space. I've been touring these spaces, you know, my travels around the country. I'm seeing how these people, you know, their dogs, all this sort of stuff going on over there. So I think it's going to be exciting. If you see something neat that you think we ought to go look at, let us know. We'll go through it. Otherwise,
So this is gonna be a dog-friendly.
this is very dog friendly.
Really?
That's what you can get right here.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, she's got,
Yeah, they're really, it's a very long span, and so the two sides have trellises, and there's a summer kitchen over on this side, and in the middle is not covered, so it has direct sunlight. So there's, you know, it's a very large span. I mean, it's over 2,000 square feet of patio outside.
where you,
There's one in the kitchen, and there's one out in the summer kitchen.
And there's a restaurant.
and the restaurant.
Yeah, I remember the restaurant, so Boss Cat is coming where the glass wall is. I don't know if you've been there on Mid-Lane in Westheimer. It's a version, it's a pretty cool space, even make a little out in there. That's the restaurant going to the glass wall. And then we'll have a restaurant down below next to us on the corner, which is basically an Italian concept, with a cappuccino bar, and it's kind of a family-oriented sort of thing.
Have you looked at, have you talked to Polly's about moving in there, or you already have somebody?
We have some.
Your food, I have all.
Who's Polly's? Who owns
It's always on
it? I know the place. I know where it is, but who owns it? Who owns it?
Yeah. I don't really want to go down that path till we figure out if we need any space on the third floor also. It's just easier to wait. It's going to be something that doesn't compete with us. You know, my condition is the ideal tenant up there is an orthodontist. And they bring clients to the Heights that have not yet been to the Heights, that brings them ones that don't have a lot of traffic.
And in the past, you've talked about wanting staff up and bring on new agents and stuff.
You know, part of the incentive was to be able to grow to some degree over there. We were out of space. It wasn't really for one more person, 2 people. I mean, I don't envision adding more than 10 people total.
Okay.
It's not, our system is not designed to add a bunch of agents. It's designed to add like-minded agents that want a place to work. You know, so
Yeah.
we could add a few, but you know, I don't intend to add a bunch. We're not going to go to 100 agents. Not going to do that. Okay. I do want us to get more entrenched into what Kathleen does and what Maria does. I want to take a moment to make sure that you are thoroughly taking advantage of their resources. We'll start with Maria. Over here. Maria really is designed to help you and your listings and some of your buyers and your people who are thinking about buying a house and people who are thinking about selling a house. If you're not utilizing Maria, if you have a listing or going on a listing appointment, or you're in the middle of an period and they're thinking about doing something, if you're not utilizing Maria, you're not utilizing the full resources of the firm. So she's going to start giving presentations about once a month on more design trends and some of those things. Predominantly what she will say in your mind is she's able to help you in the middle of your option period, go over there and talk about ways to redesign a house, remodel a kitchen, remodel a bathroom with paint or with countertops or with tile, or what are the latest trends and those sort of things. So she can go with you on a listing agreement, she can go with you, you know, to help stage a house, she can go with you to help. She's very creative. There's a lot of talents over there with Maria. We make sure that we're using them. Same thing if your clients buy a house and next year they want to remodel, hoping they're reaching out to us and getting some ideas from Maria. We have a house that we sold up in King where it's flooded and people need to, they're forced to remodel. Same thing. They want to talk. Are you going to sell it in 1 year or 5 years or 10 years? You're not going to sell your recently flooded house in 1 year, right? You're not going to be able to do that. So, I mean, I'm perfectly honest. And you plan on 10 years. The oil's at $115 a barrel, and 4 years, you're going to sell that then. It's a function of planning. You know, so when they're remodeling, they're trying to remodel for themselves, but they have to remodel with the intent of selling also at some point down the road. The Wall Street Journal had this lovely article, and we'll try and pass it on to you, about the top 10 colors in America for colors, which are versions of white.
Yeah.
They're just versions of white. We just renamed it bright white and not so bright white. I mean, those are your options of the color scheme that you can choose from. I mean, it spans from a little bit of gray to very, very black, white, whatever. But I mean, I would get off of those things and go buy yourself a Mark Rothko red painting and leave your walls white these days. I can't sell those houses. I mean, we've been talking about it for a long time, and you just can't. We're just getting this white up listed, which is this beautiful Craftsman house. It's been on the market 578 days. And it's been on 578 days because it has 11 different colors. And that's just not what anyone wants. They don't go through the hassle of doing it. So we'll paint it white and see how long it takes us to sell it. Hotel is the same way. Just go paint the damn thing white. You can try for a little bit, but it's insanity to think. Look, the #1 selling car in the world is white. It's white. I mean, if you want to go out and buy an orange car or a blue car, I mean, you just barely want to anymore. The people feel safety in white. It's just a trend. I don't know how long this is going to last, but if the house isn't a version of white, you're going to struggle to sell it. Whether it's a Craftsman house or a modern house or a stucco house, or it doesn't matter. The inside is going to get to you. And if it's brown, you just don't sell it. It's just not going to sell it. You might be able to get away with blue pearl or something with a white cabinet, but if it's brown, it's cream marble, it's travertine, and it's Baltic brown, you might as well throw up on it because it ain't good stuff. We have practiced, and I did it on my own, of plastering over my St. Cecilia brown countertop. It's a plaster application over the granite. You get it into this stucco-ish kind of plaster countertop, and it seems to be working just fine. I think it's going to be the solution to people who don't want to get a new sink and get a new faucet. Plaster over this. I'm going to practice next in my master bathroom. I'm going to plaster it white. I'm going to plaster the brown tile. I'm going to plaster the brown walls. I'm going to plaster my cream of marble. I'm going to make it a more cooler plaster on the countertops. I think it's
How's it compare prices to replacing?
It's cheaper than replacing. It's cheaper and easier and quicker.
Like,
Half, about half. It's not only the half of the selection and the time, but it's the same thing. I don't have to replace the plumbing fixture and the sink. I don't have a plumber. I don't have all that. Right? I save a fair amount by doing that. So I'm going to show you how this is going to work.
How durable is the product? It's stain resistant.
It's the same durability as you have on an outside plastered house. You know, or a stucco house. It's the same durability.
And you can just take it off, right?
You just take it off if you want to. If you want to get back to your St. Cecilia or your Baltic brown, I'm saying it's a way. It's a new look. I think it's going to work.
You put it on top of your granite.
You put it right on top of granite.
It's cool.
Yeah, we're going to show you. You know, things like leather. Yeah, this is a plaster over your ground, and you can do any tile surface. You can do granite.
Shower surround.
Shower surround.
Yeah.
Do the same thing. My old dad, remember, that was really a plaster in all the shower. That was all plaster. In the Devon master shower.
how does it wear though? Is it only for?
It's going to wear about like this table does. I mean, it's not going to be. I mean, I started in the wine cellar with wine bottles at the time. That's why I want to practice down there. So it's just these are some design
I
choices.
see the option period, that's okay.
So that's Maria. You know, I want us to put her more on the forefront here over the next 6 months.
How do we advertise? Because I've got to mistake there.
Maria's a design consultant on staff at the firm who is a free resource for our agents and our clients.
She's in the listing packet.
Okay, what is
She's
it?
in the listing
Countertop. We call it granite with plaster.
Oh, the
Oh, plaster.
You don't know how to Kathleen. I mean, I want us to better utilize Kathleen, and I think she needs to make some more presentations about what she can do to help you understand deed restrictions, mud districts, HUD districts, anything that's going on in a particular neighborhood, what's going on with the capital improvement project in a particular area. So we're going to demonstrate more of the information that she can provide to you also. So she's your first line if you have questions over, look, I don't want to be insensitive, but you don't need to ask me if houses in a historic district or not. There are 30 other people who can answer that question. Why don't you call me for that answer? You know, I see you in passing, I don't want to answer it, but there are other people who are able to probably answer this sort of question. So I want to try and keep us focused. She's your first line of how do I find the deed restrictions for?
Who do I call if somebody's violating?
Those sort of things. We're going to just have her make presentations to you so that you understand what's going on over there. And did I thoroughly explain Mario or whatever? I mean, Mario, where are you? Mario started to work today at the hurricane, so he hung out at the hub. Mario works. So I have formed a PAC called A Better Houston. It is a political action committee that is funded primarily by me and our friends, and it will raise money. It will raise money from like-minded individuals who want a better Houston, okay? Want a safer Houston, a cleaner Houston, better air. And honestly, we must elect politicians who are like-minded. And so Mario works for the PAC, A Better Houston, and he is designed to be a political affairs consultant. He keeps up with politics. He keeps up with government. He keeps up with politics. Okay? And he keeps us on the forefront of what's going on in the political arena, from the community colleges to the school boards to the city councils to the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, the Libertarian Party. He's a political paid person in politics who's funded by A Better Houston. Better Houston raises money. We will promote A Better Houston. Every other major company in the world has a political action committee. HKR has a political action committee. Right? Poultry Pack. Centerpoint has a political action committee. The Houston Texans, HISD, the city of Houston, they all have PACs. I just want to put our money where the mouth is, and we're going to go out there. We're going to get more involved in supporting candidates for causes that improve the neighborhoods in which we are selling houses in. I think it's directly tied to what it is that we do. We can't sit idly by without being a little more involved. So that's right. We're not going to get too involved in any national politics. That's really, this is neighborhood-centered for the city of Houston. We're not going to get too involved in judges' races, county commissioners, school board, city council, in Bel Air, Westview, and Bunker Hill, and the town board at the Woodlands. I mean, you can pay attention to these other areas also. It's not just city council. The share matters to neighborhoods. It matters to the population of our people. So those were things. Mario, that's correct. And if you have, this is what he studies. He studies these. How many people voted yesterday? Where did they come from? Who's the likely? This matters to me. If the west side and the north side are disproportionately voting, it's telling me we've got to get people out who are in the inner city. The inner city voter is going to vote for these pension bonds, okay? They get it. They're the more. Cinco Ranch and Jack Kingwood is not trying to invest in it. They don't have an urban black problem. We have an urban black problem in the near north side and the sunny side and, on Washington Avenue. And so this is what he does, tracks who's voting. This is not a trial. This is a simple election because it's not that much controversy, but he has a long-term commitment to stay involved in the political arena. Kathleen is city council, planning commission, historic commission, deed restrictions, impact on the sidewalk over there. She's focusing on that. He's on who and she's on what. So it's a little confusing, but that's how it works.
There's a school board, I heard this in our Boulevard Oaks Ladies Club. There's a school board guy stepping down, who's been in a long time, and a like-minded person is learning. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Is that District 5?
It's, well, we go to school, I'm sorry. It's,
That's all.
that's,
There is,
I think it,
there is one, more
The one-
conservative, member that has retired. It's
what's his name? He's still there.
last name,
Lunsford?
it's on the HIC school board.
Yes.
That might be.
Okay, but who is the woman? There's a,
There's three,
Steinberg or?
three folks.
he has an unusual name that starts with A.
You can Google it.
Okay, questions, comments, concerns? Yes, you do. Okay.
I've just been talking
Sure.
about
What?
garage,
Garage apartment.
and the hysterical districts.
Hysterical.
The North Hill is the only historic district of the 27 historic districts where garages are contributing structures. So in North Hill, a garage is a contributing structure. In Houston Heights and Woodland Heights and Freeland and then no garages are considered contributing structures. So already North Hill is different from everywhere else. The North Hill Homeowners Association, Foster Plaza, also governs how garage apartments are done, and it violates the deed restrictions to add any new garage apartments to North Hill. 11th to Scuba, that direction over there. So you have a historical restriction and you have a deed restriction against it. So with that in mind, what was your question?
Well, you just kind of answered that one with this initial thing of, it's not a matter of figuring out livable square feet.
No, it's not. That design guideline has nothing to do with North Hill anyway. Those design guidelines only apply to east, south, and west. They haven't adopted the design guidelines for that yet anyway. But it is treated completely different anyway because their garages are contributing structures. That's different. And there's no new garage apartments allowed under their deed restrictions.
But then with the heights,
Totally different. Totally different. And so the same thing, the first two blocks of the North Hill edition of Woodland Heights has a set of rules for garage apartments versus that's 1,100 block versus when you get to the 900 block, you have a different set of rules. So different set of deed restrictions. One homeowners association, 17 different, sets of deed restrictions going on over there. So it depends on the block of what you're talking about. No design guidelines been adopted either. So these design guidelines that we're talking about, that are up at HAC this month, are not related to anything other than this side to do with it.
And when you say North Hill, are you talking?
To this
I
side,
was talking about this novel.
North, Roger Plaza.
So then, if I'm talking about Woodland Heights, then I have to come and say,
What?
I'm looking at the garage apartment.
Okay, you're in the outer 900 block, if you opted in or out, I have the 900 page document over the corner over there. So if you're in the 1,100 block, you have to really study it. If you're in the 900 block or otherwise, you can build a garage apartment. There's no deed restriction against it. There are setbacks that you have to follow. If you're in a historic district, you have to have approval from the HAC.
But did it change that you cannot put a kitchen in a garage apartment in North Hill in Woodland Heights?
If you opted out of that, you're not impacted by that. So depending if you opted in or out, if you did not opt out of that deal, then yes, you cannot add, you can have a studio with a bathroom, or you can have, you got to see a good artist deal. Bathroom and kitchen. That's the 11 block, if you did not opt out of that permission. So anyhow, plenty of my transfer board so that anyone that asks me to opt out. Now you do whatever you want. But it is very confusing in the 1,100 block. Very confusing.
And if it's houses on the pavement,
Yeah, all of that North Hill edition of Woodland Heights. You can look at that. You're supposed to be a wealth of knowledge over here. Okay, anything else? All right, thank you. Yeah,